Hello again. Some people have been dismayed lately by the titles of some of the videos on this channel. Not the content, mind, it is the titles about which they are so greatly exercised. No need actually to watch the things, you only need to see what I've called them. One person drew attention to my use of the word immigrants when describing videos. This word being on the list of suspect expressions which probably indicate intolerance or even racism. This is actually quite funny, and I shall explain why. Viewers have probably noticed that we seldom hear or read of immigrants these days. Imperceptibly, it has become a taboo expression, and it cannot be long before it is as unacceptable to talk of immigrants as it would be to refer to darkies. Perhaps this is because immigrants was once almost invariably preceded by the word illegal, and for this reason has become seen as a little off in the modern world. But what word can the progressive and liberal-minded substitute for immigrant? Aha! Why not simply call them migrants? That sounds more neutral, doesn't it? This is why you will all have become used to seeing migrants talked about rather than immigrants, which is in consequence becoming regarded as somewhat old-fashioned. Immigrants, indeed. This is, of course, why some right-on types have been getting a little upset about the titles of videos here, because I still refer to immigrants. It gives a slightly dated feel sometimes to what I say. There's a great problem, though, with using migrant as a synonym for immigrant. This is because the two words have completely different meanings, and all those frightfully sensitive and well-meaning folk who have got into the habit of talking about migrants are unwittingly saying the very opposite of what they wish to say, which is very funny. Perhaps I ought to explain. Just to remind ourselves, those on the right often express the view that the people landing illegally in this country after crossing the Channel are really coming here because they see economic advantage in making such a journey, that they are coming here to find work and perhaps a higher standard of living. This is of course furiously denied by people on the left who prefer to talk of asylum seekers and refugees, believing that far from coming here in search of better prospects, those crossing the Channel have been driven from their homes and are simply desperate folk who need shelter. This is where things get very funny, but to see the humour we need to check the meanings of the words which are being used. Remember, the word migrant is the favoured term used by the BBC for such individuals, and other media such as newspapers have also fallen in line. So all those people landing in Kent are generally referred to as migrants rather than immigrants. Let's look at the Oxford English Dictionary, aha, and see what we find. This is the 2005 edition, by the way. Now then, what does immigrant mean? A person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country. Well, that seems to fit the case well enough, both for those crossing the Mexican border into the United States and also the people crossing the English Channel in small boats. What about migrants? What does that mean? Pretty much the same, right? Well, no, not really. Let's see. Migrant. A person who moves from one place to another in order to find work. Oh dear, that's a facer, isn't it? I call those people immigrants because they are moving permanently from one country to another. Liberals and progressive types, though, insist on calling them migrants, which simply means people moving from place to place in search of work. In other words, economic immigrants, people motivated purely by self-interest in seeking work. Not asylum seekers or refugees, you see, just hunting jobs. I hope that viewers appreciate the delicious irony here. By plumping for what they imagine to be a neutral term, people like the BBC have actually declared that they do not view these people as refugees or asylum seekers at all, but rather people who are coming here because they're seeking self-advancement and looking for well-paid jobs. I, on the other hand, by using the term immigrants, am describing these people in completely factual and non-judgmental terms, acknowledging that they are coming with the intention of living permanently in another country. My choice of word leaves open the question of whether they are refugees or economic immigrants. But by insisting on using the term migrants, the BBC are in effect denying that they could be asylum seekers at all. I hope the viewers see the point here, which is that in their desperate bid to show how sensitive and right on they are, those who now talk of migrants rather than immigrants are in fact guilty of making a particular and negative judgment of the motivations of those crossing the channel in small boats.